The Republican Party is so good at what it does that even after a Republican president is out of office and we have a Democratic president and we have a majority Democrats in the Senate and in the House, Republicans are still getting their agendas taken care of. It's f***ing awesome. It's great. And Democrats, on the other hand, are in the corner of the room with their head between their thumb and their index finger, just rolling that shit back and forth saying, I don't think there's anything we can do. You have to go vote harder. You got to do your part. I'm bringing all this shit up because I'm just quite tired, and obviously I don't necessarily have a solution for all this besides organizing locally and berating, getting into contact with your representative, holding them accountable whenever they're not getting anything done. A few things I wanted to point out here from major voices of the Democratic Party who beg for your vote, and then whenever they get into that position of power, they do nothing.
And the Republican Party, their supermajority in the Supreme Court, American women today have less freedom than their mothers.
Yeah, so like she said, there's a supermajority in the Supreme Court. Just to clarify, essentially landslide victory to the to-do list for Republican agendas. They're just checking shit off that they want to get done. The reason that came about is because Donald Trump appointed these justices during his presidency. One way to prevent that from even happening was Ruth Bader Ginsburg could have stepped down during the Obama presidency, thus allowing Obama to appoint another Supreme Court justice. But she was sick. She held on to that power like all old people do in our political system that we have here that just can be a career I mean, look at Nancy Pelosi. Look how and I hate being ageist, and she's probably a great grandma. Chuck Schumer's probably a great grandpa. All these other old that are serving this political system we have, I'm sure they're all great old people. That doesn't necessarily make them a great politician. They're completely out of their element. They can barely operate to serve the good of the people. That is what the system was supposed to be designed to do. Since Ruth Bader Ginsburg had essentially succumbed to her illness without resigning, without retiring, Donald Trump was able to appoint whomever he wanted to, which served his interests. Of course, those people got up there and said that they would not overturn Roe v. Wade, which was an outright lie. So now here we are. We have Nancy Pelosi coming up here, essentially just trying to console the American people, but it's all empty words as far as I'm concerned, because they're going to do absolutely nothing. I mean, whenever this happened, all the Democrats, including her, sent out these mass emails wanting to fundraise, like, oh my God, this just happened. The Republicans did what we knew they were going to do, and they're getting away with it. Donate money now. We need your money. We need your support, because what we're going to do is sit on our ass and collect all this fundraising money. The Republicans have reactionary politics, and the Democrats are becoming reactionary too, in the sense that anytime something outrageous happens that the Republicans are able to accomplish as far as policy is concerned, all Democrats do is like, we have to fundraise now. I need your money. Please donate $15 today. I want to show you what your if you did donate $15, I want to show you what you can look forward to from Nancy Pelosi.
From time to time, I quote this poem by Ehud Manor. He's an Israeli poet. I met his wife when I've been in Israel. He says, I have no other country, even though my land is burning. Only a word in Hebrew penetrates my veins, my soul, with an aching body and with a hungry heart. Here is my home. I will not be silent, for my country has changed her face. My country has changed her face. I shall not give up on her. I shall remind her and sing into her ears until she opens her eyes.
So yeah, all the women that this has affected, just recite that poem that Nancy Pelosi just read. Maybe that'll bring you some comfort during your forced pregnancy that you have to carry to term. A lot of reactionary conservatives write this shit off like, well, they didn't make it illegal. It's just back to the states. People can still get abortions. It's still coming back to the same argument. That's what the federal government is there for, to protect human rights, essentially. I mean, you could use that same argument for whenever slavery happened. We had to go down into Texas and tell Texas, hey, by the way, slavery is done. It's over. Hence Juneteenth. That's the whole point of Juneteenth. This is what the federal government is for, is to reach beyond those boundaries and ensure that there are human rights, and that goes down to what a woman is able to do with her body. As my wife said in another video, that if someone can't force you to donate an organ to save someone else's life, that same right should not be given to a fetus. And there's a whole argument to have there there when life begins and whatnot. Obviously, that's why there's such high tensions, because we have these evangelical Christians that are rooted within this country that got this idea that America is founded on Judeo-Christian values and principles, and that is where a lot of these policies lie, and that's how a lot of people vote, and that's how a lot of people have this worldview. And obviously this is how the conversation of abortion gets so heated. And I'm not bringing up anything new. This isn't groundbreaking information. I just want to remind people who say that, well, it's still up to the states. It's not illegal. Not everybody has the ability to relocate to a state that will do that for them. Not everybody is able to drive all the way to those locations. It's so stupid to say that it's still up to states' rights. And because again, we come back to the same conversation, which is essentially suppressing women's rights, what they can do with their body. Is there anything that the federal government can do at this point in time? Well, there is one thing. There is such thing as federal land where they can make abortion available on that land in those states where it is illegal. So if that's an option, is the Democratic Party going to work in that direction? Are they going to take action to see if that can be a possibility? I don't know. Let's see what Vice President Harris has to say as she sits down with CNN's Dana Bash.
Can the administration expand abortion access or abortion services on federal land, meaning provide the access on federal land that might be in and around states that ban abortion?
I think that what is most important right now is that we ensure that the restrictions that the states are trying to put up that would prohibit a woman from exercising what we still maintain is her right, that we do everything we can to empower women to not only seek but to receive the care.
That's what she just asked you, you dumbass. You whenever I first heard this, I was like, I don't understand. It's so stupid. It makes me want to it makes me want to cry. That's how little faith I have in anything anymore. She's asking you point blank, here's a suggestion. Here's something that some people have suggested, that federal land be used to protect these procedures. It would be legal on federal land in states where it is made illegal. And Dana's asking her, is that an option? And she's like, well, I think what's important is that women have unrestricted access to be able to get these procedures. Come again? I just gave you, are you guys going to pursue action in the form of allowing these procedures to take place on federal land in states where it is made illegal? That is an obvious avenue you could go down. Are you going to do that? And she's like, well, I believe that women should have that choice to do whatever.
It's available.
Is federal land one of those options?
I mean, it's not right now what we are discussing, but I will say...
Why not? Why is that not one of the options that you're discussing? Like, the Democrats are just so... And they're not that stupid. I don't think they're that dumb. I think that they know that that's an option, but they just don't want to act on it. And I think she's about to tell us why they don't want to act on it.
But I will say that when I think about what is happening in terms of the states, we have to also recognize, Dana, that we are 130 odd days away from an election, which is going to include Senate races, right?
So they're worried about the elections that are coming up. I think this is probably exactly why the Supreme Court did it, what they did. They waited until the presidential elections were over to start this procedure to essentially go down their to-do list, because if they would have done it during the presidential race, there may have been like this mass reactionary outburst that would have cost them a presidential election. Had they done that before the election, then maybe it would have pissed so many people off that would have came out in droves to vote just in spite. I think the same thing's happening here, where they don't even want to think about the prospect of this solution. It's all about the future prospect. It's all about looking down the road and worrying about those kind of votes instead of like just, this is what we voted for. This is why we voted for you, to enact these things. If we're always voting for someone who's thinking about the future elections down the line and they don't want to pass policy because they're scared they're going to piss massive droves of people off who will then come out and vote in spite, that's just what you have to do. You have to act in the interest of the people who voted you into office and pass those policies. People who voted you into office in the first place will vote for you again if you did the job that you said you would do, because you can bet your ass that they're not going to vote for you now if you just sit on your fucking ass and don't do anything that you said you would do in the first place.
What I'm hearing, and you probably are too, is what can this Democratic administration do right now with any executive power that the president has.
Yeah.
Can the administration actually increase access to medication abortion?
I think we're pretty clear that to the extent that we can, we will. There's no question about that, because again, it is FDA approved, and if it is prescribed, that a woman should be able to have access to it unfettered.
And you heard her talk about the election coming up in 2022. And Pamela, I asked her what I'm hearing from a lot of Democrats, I'm sure you are as well, which is, wait a minute, we elected the Democrats for the executive branch, the president, the House, the Senate, they're all in charge. Why not try to do something now? And the way to do that, of course, would be for her to endorse getting rid of the filibuster in the Senate for this issue. The president did that for voting rights, nothing else. She wouldn't go there on that.
That's pretty wild to think that CNN is going after Kamala Harris like that, asking all the hard-hitting questions that she literally just doesn't want to answer. This brings us to the filibuster, which is essentially, I'll just read exactly what filibuster definition is. A filibuster is a political procedure in which one or more members of a legislative body prolong debate on proposed legislation so as to delay or entirely prevent decision. It keeps progress from moving forward. Anytime there's a political policy on the debate floor where we can move forward and vote on it, we can essentially hold that progress up by debating about it endlessly. In order to pass legislation, the Senate requires 60 votes to pass most legislation. The filibuster is a Senate rule that essentially requires 60 votes to pass most legislation. I want to take a look at what Joe Biden had to say in the past and what Joe Biden is saying as of recently. Biden won't embrace filibuster reforms even as the rest of his party does. President Joe Biden isn't budging from his desire to keep filibuster in place, at least not yet, and activists demanding reforms are growing increasingly befuddled by the administration's hesitance. That's all this administration is hesitancy. They don't act on anything. They just sit there and talk about it, think about it, or they say they'll do something and then just don't acknowledge it ever again as if it never fucking happened. Let's see what he has to say as of recently. This is, I think, 4 days ago. Today's July 5th.
What further specific executive actions are you considering in response to the Roe ruling? And would you declare a public health emergency, as several Democrats are calling on you to do?
I'll be happy to go in detail with you on that. I'm having a meeting with a group of governors when I get home on Friday, and I'll have announcements to make then. But the first and foremost thing we should do is make it clear how outrageous this decision was and how much it impacts not just on woman's right to choose, which is a critical piece, but on privacy generally. And so I'm going to be talking to the governors as to what actions they think I should be taking as well. And but the most important thing to be clear about is we have to change. I believe we have to codify Roe v. Wade in the law, and the way to do that is to make sure the Congress votes to do that. And if the filibuster gets in the way, it's like voting rights. It should be we provide an exception for this. Require an exception to the filibuster for this action. When you think this decision by the court was an outrage or a significant mistake, vote. Show up and vote. Vote in the off year and vote.
So the president's solution is to vote, which is literally what we did this last election. And again, I sound like a fucking broken record. We have a Democratic president. We have majority Democrats in the House and the Senate. And none of these people are doing fucking anything. The system has essentially failed us. It's all the way to the point where one person who proclaims he's a Democrat can hold up progress because we need his or her vote in order to pass policy. Joe Manchin, American politician, businessman, a senator from West Virginia. He's held the seat since 2010.
We're having a lot of serious, long, and intense meetings with Senators Manchin and Sinema. We are trying to come to a place. We're not there yet. I wouldn't want to delude anybody into thinking this is easy. But we're trying to come to a place where 50 senators can support two bills, the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Act, and with a change in the rules.
Breaking news this morning, Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia has just said he is a no on President Biden's cornerstone legislation, Build Back Better. Take a listen.
And I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation. I just can't. I've tried everything humanly possible. I can't get there.
You're done. This is a no.
This is a no on this legislation. I have tried everything I know to do.
I'm pulling up stuff from, this is 2021, and earlier we watched a clip from January of this year. It's just interesting how it all hinges on the vote of one or two senators who are aligned with the Democratic Party, or supposed to be because they're Democratic senators, and our senators can't convince their own fucking party to agree on a piece of legislation, which the majority does agree on. Republicans love this shit so much too, because the Democrats can't all agree. That's what's frustrating. You would think that since we have the majority of Democrats, it'd be quite easy to get policy passed, but it all comes down to, example, Joe Manchin's name comes up endless times because that's where policy gets hung up on, is Democrats trying to convince their own people in their party about policies that they want to pass and enact that would supposed to serve the benefit of the Democratic Party and the people who voted them into office to begin with. So that's why a lot of people say Joe Manchin's just an undercover Republican hiding, masquerading as a Democrat, because it seems he's always in opposition to everything the Democratic Party is trying to accomplish. Why am I bringing all this up anyway in this video? I don't know. I guess just because I want to vent my frustration about how the system works, and all I know to do, all I've heard that we can do as citizens is to organize locally. Obviously, don't stop voting, but that shouldn't be, I hate hearing that from our leadership who we've already voted into place. They need to be doing more. That's the whole reason we even got them in place to begin with. But obviously hold your representatives accountable. I'm guilty of it myself. I'm working on trying to be more proactive and educate myself on what the issues are and who isn't doing what they should be doing. But again, this was mostly to point out how frustrating our system really is. And I guess it's just pointing out the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party to ask, please give me your fundraising money. Please do this and that, and vote me in office, vote in droves. Everybody come out. This is very important. And then they finally get what they want, and then it's not enough. They just sit on their fucking hands, don't do anything. And then whenever Republicans are able to get things accomplished, they send emails out again being like, what we do today is really going to determine the future. Can you please chip in $15 to this campaign?